On the docket tonight, California versus Scott Peterson. Yeah, Scott Peterson. Still fighting for a new trial. Seems like yesterday I was out in Redwood City for that verdict, and then before that, the year before that, in Modesto for that preliminary hearing when it all happened. But he's still fighting, and he thinks he's got new evidence, new theory, everything else going on. Ted Rollins has the story.
In a unanimous opinion, the California Supreme Court reversed the death sentence against Scott Peterson, saying the trial court made a series of clear and significant errors in jury selection. At issue is the fact that several potential jurors were dismissed solely because they wrote on questionnaires that they were against the death penalty, even though the jurors gave no indication that their views would prevent them from following the law. The court, however, rejected Peterson's claim that he did not receive a fair trial and affirmed his convictions for murder. Scott Peterson was found guilty of murdering his pregnant wife, Laci, and their unborn son, Connor, in 2003. The case received unprecedented media attention, which Peterson's appellate attorney, Cliff Garner, argued should have resulted in a second change of venue.
Of the nearly 50% that had reached a decision, 98.5% thought he was guilty, and 6 jurors thought he was innocent, out of the 1,000 that had completed questionnaires at the time the change of venue motion was raised.
The Supreme Court rejected that argument, saying the publicity the Peterson trial generated, like the trials of O.J. Simpson and the Manson family, and any other number of so-called trials of the century before them, was intrinsic to the case, not the place. Therefore, the court found that moving the trial to another location a second time would not have solved the problem of excessive publicity. Peterson's other arguments, that jurors should not have been able to stand in his boat during jury deliberations and that cadaver dog evidence was flawed, were also rejected by the court. It's now up to local prosecutors as to whether or not they will retry the penalty phase. California has not carried out a death sentence since 2006 and currently has a moratorium on executions.
All right, and the status on the death sentence is prosecutors said they're not going to retry the death penalty phase. But if Scott Peterson gets a new trial, I guess anything's on the table. I want you to take a listen to Scott Peterson's sister-in-law. Janie Peterson is her name. She's been very outspoken, very passionate in the defense of her brother-in-law, Scott. She believes in his innocence. And here is the theory now that the defense believes is the truth of what happened. Take a listen.
Scott's habeas petition outlined evidence that wasn't heard in court. It outlined that Laci was alive and walking the dog the morning that she went missing. This took place after Scott left for the day. If Laci's walking the dog, Scott is innocent. It outlined information from the mailman that corroborates that Laci was walking the dog. It further goes on to talk about the evidence that's been collected that Laci confronted or encountered the burglars across the street. There was a burglary that occurred across the street the day that Laci went missing. And, we've been investigating this entire time, so we have 5 more years of information. So we're looking forward to our day in court so the public can hear that Scott is innocent, and we need justice for Laci and Connor and Scott.
It's the burglar theory. Let's bring in our special guest joining us in Los Angeles, California, former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani. Nima, great to see you. Let's walk through this burglar theory, okay? And so the way I look at it, if she's out there, Laci Peterson, and she comes across a burglary in progress, and the burglars are like, oh my goodness, we can't get caught breaking into a house, so let's abduct this pregnant woman. Which do you think is more plausible? Do they then hold her for months and then wait until they find out that Scott Peterson, her husband, was fishing in San Francisco Bay and then drive 2.5 hours and place her in the bay then? Or are these burglars just really unlucky and that they, again, had to murder the witness to breaking into a house and just coincidentally discarded her body in the place 2.5 hours away where Scott Peterson just coincidentally happened to go fishing that day?
And coincidentally, Scott Peterson bought a boat 15 days before his wife disappeared and researched ocean currents and couldn't identify any of the fish she was allegedly fishing for. So, look, this is a theory, but it's certainly not a good one. I know the defense has been focused on the timeline in this case and the fact that if Laci Peterson was walking the dog, then it's impossible for Scott to have killed her. But, they're better off focusing on those appellate issues. That's a much stronger chance of success than actual factual innocence, because they just don't have that here.
So what are your thoughts about the habeas? I mean, it seems that they're putting a lot of weight there, trying to get this new trial based on this new, and this isn't new evidence. I mean, we heard about these burglars. I remember when I was in Modesto, because when Laci was first missing, we were out there and we're asking people for different theories and different rumors that were out there about different people and vans and burglaries and everything. What do you think the likelihood is here of him getting this new trial this many years later?
I think that's unlikely. On the death penalty issue, I can see why the California Supreme Court did what it did. This is something that's new in criminal appellate law. We saw it actually in the Boston Marathon bomber case, where the First Circuit reversed his death penalty conviction based on insufficient questioning of the jurors. That's going to the Supreme Court. So, I mean, I understand why even though I don't agree, I understand why the California Supreme Court reversed the death sentence based on the incomplete voir dire, or actually exclusion of jurors who did not support the death penalty. But as far as the habeas petition, with respect to juror misconduct, Miss Nice, who we're probably going to deal with the same issue. And I know we're talking about other cases, but he's going to be sentenced tomorrow. We're going to deal with the same issue in the Derek Chauvin trial. One of the appellate issues was a juror honest when he answered a questionnaire about participating in rallies? And he was in a rally in D.C. And was he participating in the question was related, at least one of the questions related to Minnesota, but her specific questions were, was she a victim of a crime? And had she been a party to a lawsuit? Well, she had sought a restraining order against her boyfriend's ex-girlfriend. So the judge in this case is going to need to decide, was she being honest when she answered those questions? And this particular juror took it one step further, or two steps further. She wrote a book about her experience, and she actually exchanged about a dozen letters with Scott Peterson when he was in prison, which was just bizarre. So I think that is the best defense argument, that, look, regardless of factual innocence or not, this burglar theory, walking the dog, the mailman, you have juror misconduct here. That there you have a specific juror who wanted to get on this jury, who told the court that even though her employer wasn't going to pay for jury duty, she wanted to be on this jury, and she intentionally lied to get on this panel.
That's it, yeah. It was a bizarre deliberation, by the way. Also, they reached a verdict on a Friday, but they didn't deliver it until the following week, because one or more of the jurors wanted to stay in the hotel for the weekend because they were sequestered during that part, which was fascinating to me. How much of this, and we only have about a minute left here, how much of this, though, is, hey, when you're first trying the case, you've got to investigate it, you've got to figure out, the burglary thing's nothing new here. To me, that's old. If you chose not to do it in the first trial, too bad.
It is too bad. And, I know and I respect Mark Garagos, who was the lead defense attorney in this case. But, I mean, that's not something that you can bring up, 15 years later on appeal. That's not something that you can do. Maybe Peterson has an ineffective assistance of counsel claim, but as far as his defense team is concerned, you can't bring up these facts. That's just poor legal strategy, nothing more. It's not an appellate issue.
Nima Rahmani, always great to have you on the show. Thanks a lot, pal.
Thanks, Vinny. Great seeing
folks,
you, as always.
Yep, we are tracking this. We've got a status hearing coming up August 25th. August 25th, status hearing, and we'll find out. And of course, we're going to stay on top of the story. I mean, if he gets a new trial, he gets a new trial. But I think it's doubtful, but there still seems to be a lot of hope on the side of Scott Peterson and his family.